So a couple of more definitions when we're talking about probability. So we're going to talk about experiments. Experiments within the confines of this class are simply processes that leads to the occurrence of one and only one of several possible results. So that's an experiment. When we're doing experiments, we're looking at outcomes, which are the particular results. And we're looking at events, or an event, which is a collection of one or more outcomes of an experiment. And when we're talking about probability, we're oftentimes going to discuss classical probability. Classical probability applies when there are n equally likely outcomes to an experiment. So classical probability we can think of with the flipping of a coin, the tossing of a coin, or rolling of a die, right? Classical probability tells us that the probability of an event is equal to the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of possible outcomes. When we're talking about classical probability, we have mutual and collective exhaustivity. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be mutually exclusive? Mutually exclusive means that when one event occurs, no other event can occur, right? So when we're rolling a dice, we can't have a 1 come up and a 6 come up, right? The fact that the 1 is the thing that showed its face when we rolled that dice means that no other numbers can be rolled at that same time. We have this situation of collective exhaustion, right? What does it mean for something to be collectively exhaustive? Collectively exhaustive is when at least one of the events must occur when an experiment is conducted. It's not like you are rolling this dice on a table where there's a hole in the middle of the table, and if it goes down the hole, then there's no roll, right? You're rolling this dice, and one of the 6 sides has to come up. You're playing cards, you know that the other person has some kind of cards. They've gotten, 1 through king of one of the 4 suits. And you also know that because they've gotten a jack of clubs means that, or because you have a jack of clubs in your hand, you know, as long as you're playing a normal game with only 1 deck of cards, right? That means because of the mutual exclusivity, the other person also could not have been dealt a jack of clubs, right? There's many bidding games based on this kind of memory. So this is talking about our classical probability. Classical probability, which is looking at the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of possible outcomes. And the probability, the classical probability, you can kind of think of as a population probability, right? Because we're looking at all of the possible outcomes. We're looking at all of the 6 sides that you could have rolled. We're looking at all of the 52 cards that you could have been dealt. But there's another type of probability that we're going to be working with throughout a lot of this class, and that is empirical probability.